Let's go. Hey, 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 yo. Come on. Hey, 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 hey.
Welcome, everybody, to another Fantastics Inside of Baseball podcast here on InsideOfBaseball.com, Spotify, Google, Apple. Is Google still doing it anymore? I don't even know. We're all over the place. So wherever you found us before, we're still here. But mostly at InsideOfBaseball.com, especially the baseball blog. If you're a non-subscriber, go ahead and check it out. Lots of free information. Sky Dombroske is here with me. I'm Lou Blasi. And we do this. We don't do this on a regular schedule, but we try to get at least one out a week here and get it going right because we're just working, guys. We're working.
Yeah, you and I work about, 17 jobs combined. So
I know, right? But we're going to have fun today because this is an interesting topic, and we're not going to do exit velocity again because we've done that for like the last 3 shows. But
it's important.
It's important, no, and it's one of the things you can lean into it a little bit early, and we're still struggling for stats that we can draw some conclusions from. But we talk about the 3 pillars of starting pitching a lot, and the 3 pillars of starting pitching are being able to strike out guys, not walking guys, and keeping the ball in the ballpark. That's the way Skylar and I talked about it for years. And finally, Anthony Perry from Fantastics kind of quantified all this, and he switched it from home run rate to ground ball rate, keeping the ball on the ground. Very important stat. Second in importance to walk rate, and we'll talk about that at some point here in these podcasts as well, because I think there's an emphasis in baseball on limiting walks more because it's more efficient for the pitcher, and it's also keeps hitters off second base. You walk them and they steal second base. This is the way it's going. So it helps pitchers out if you limit the amount of walks that you hand out.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's important, not just from the stolen base standpoint, but we're talking about ground ball rate today. But even these guys with 60% ground ball rates, they allow some home runs. People hit home runs anymore. Your lowest guy on the roster is hitting 15 to 20 home runs a year. So it behooves you to give up solo homers and not 3-run homers. So that's where the walk thing comes in.
But from a pitching and defense standpoint, you want the ball on the ground as much as possible. Ground balls do get through, but they're easier to manage, and doesn't turn into the walk and the home run for the 2-run homer, and you screw up your day as much as possible. And yes, you're going to give up homers. Homers are part of the game. That's the way it is. But if you get throwing more ground balls, chances are you're going to be better at keeping the ball in the ballpark. We'll see some examples where they aren't necessarily, but for the most part, if the ball's on the ground, you're a little bit safer than if you're giving up fly balls. And I think the other important stat here is we talk about quality of contact a lot, and we talk about ground balls because not only are teams, I think, putting an emphasis on limiting walks, I don't think they're not limiting strikeouts, and it's not pitch to contact, but it's less efficient to strike out guys than it is to have some short innings, allow some contact, but some contact you can handle. And I think teams are very focused on getting pitchers into the 6th inning, at least pitching a little bit longer, because what happens is in August and September, and sometimes July, if you're the Red Sox, or April, if you're the Red Sox, your bullpen is burnt out, right? So you're trying to get pitchers to be a little bit more efficient, and that doesn't necessarily mean striking out 13 guys a game.
Well, that's for sure. And I think, this move toward velocity is great in the sense that you got 16 different guys that come out of the bullpen throwing 98. But it's not great from a starting pitching standpoint because you get these guys that are super inefficient. And, like Ben Brown's a good example. I think the world of his talent, but, when you're every batter is like walk, strikeout, pop up. Oh, there's a 22 pitch first inning. Okay. You went 1 inning and got a couple Ks. And everything's fine, except you can't go more than 4 innings. So your bullpen having to suck up 5 innings a game is an awful lot when you get in these stretches where you're playing 15, 16 games in consecutive days. The bullpen can't handle that.
And high leverage relievers are good, right? High leverage relievers are good, and they have punch out ability and they have velocity. But the reliever you're putting in the 5th inning may not necessarily be as good. At
some point, the bottom guy in your roster is going to pitch, and it's going to be in those least leverage situations.
Plus, it also screws up the team for a matter of days, right?
Yeah.
And you need pitchers. I think teams need pitchers to get in the 6th inning until they get to the point, and they will. Predict me. You can take this as a prediction. They will get to the point where they're going to add a pitching slot for rosters, maybe 2. It's going to happen.
I think it's going to happen too. And, then we're just going to have more openers and, down to 4-man rotations with a couple opener days. And it's just you're going to love it. I can tell.
Yeah. The opening thing kind of went away, didn't it? I mean, as a strategy, teams use bullpen days. They're called bullpen days now, but
they're using it more now, like by need, not by plan.
Right.
So when you have a couple injuries, or you're just for whatever reason, for rainouts or something like that, you're just short for a day, they'll do it. But it's not the plan anymore. As far as I can tell, like I don't see any team that's consciously doing it in a planned way.
All right. So what we're going to do, and this is what we do with stats here in the early season, is we look at some leaderboards, we look at some things that have changed, and we try to figure out if they're legitimate, if they're the result of something, an approach change or something like that, and what it may mean for the rest of the season. And today we're going to look at pitchers who have seen some growth in ground ball rate. If we get some time a little bit later, we'll look for some who have slipped in ground ball rate. But this is one of the things we look for in pitching. We want pitchers to keep the ball on the ground when they give up contact. And we're looking at pitchers today who have seen some significant rises in the ground ball rate to this point in the season. And I guess the point is, at this point, Skylar, see if it's a matter of an approach change or whether it's small sample noise, or try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, we're at 6 or 7 starts for most of these guys. So, you're about a fifth of the season. We can start to draw some semblance of some conclusions on some guys. I think some of these guys I feel a little more strongly about than others, one way or the other.
Yep.
But the schedule still matters. We're early enough. The schedule matters.
Yeah, but I also looked at I went and looked at the global view here and looked at April as opposed to the last 2 years in Major League Baseball. And unfortunately, Fangraph's leaderboard on leagues doesn't allow me to do splits. I couldn't do April across the 3 years. But April this year doesn't look a hell of a lot different from a lot of standpoints than 23 and 24 have as a year in general. So yes, the weather and the schedules plays a part of it. Plus, there's a lot more off days on Thursdays and a lot more off days on Mondays and things like that. And coming out of camp, and not everyone's into the groove yet. And it's certainly not July and August. So we can factor that in to an extent. But I think we're at a point where we can at least have some discussions about some pitchers who have shown an increased ability to keep the ball on the ground.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this time of year, I'm more inclined to look at velocity bumps and declines than anything else. But this is important too. I mean, there are a couple of guys here that have massively changed their ground ball rate. So that really speaks to something that is a sea change and not just randomness.
Here's the thing. I don't think you can also just look at velo changes in a vacuum anymore, because I think, again, with the emphasis on controlling walks, I think some guys, they've taught some pitchers to give up velocity a little bit.
For the declines, yeah, I agree with you.
Go for max effort. Go from max effort to high effort to increase their control a little bit. So that's something you have to examine, even when you're looking at velocity losses, for example.
Yeah, I think like everything, you have to take all the information that you have in concert. It's not. We talk about this all the time. Like it all matters. Like context matters. So.
All right, so let's start with Yamamoto, and his ground ball rate has increased dramatically. In fact, it's higher than what his overseas rates were, and he was a good ground ball pitcher in the overseas. And I think we have to look at this as last year being the aberration, just acclimating to Major League Baseball, right?
I think so. Plus, some minor injury kind of related stuff. But there's also, when you talk about the difference between the Nippon League and our league, I think that there's just a different hitting philosophy. So ground ball rates are naturally just going to be a little bit more elevated over there because that is a style of hitting that more players employ. So the fact that Yamamoto was kind of a 55, 56% average ground ball pitcher over there, I feel like the 48% that he put up last year, that probably translates pretty well. I think that's probably about the differential that you should expect. So now this year through 6 starts, he's jumped up to 63%, which, that's just a massive ground ball rate for anybody.
Yep.
And I think this is the guy, the way he's pitched this year, this is kind of the guy I was expecting to come over. I think he's a legitimate ace, legitimate top 12 pitcher. He's given up average exit velocity. Swing strike rate's gone from 12, which is a little above average, to 13, which is getting pretty darn good. He's been as good as advertised. And, I really do feel that he's a top 10 arm. He's only 26 years old. Case of the rich getting richer, with the Dodgers being able to continue to get these guys.
Well, money doesn't buy you happiness, but it buys you some pretty good pitching.
Well, I think money can buy you happiness.
Yeah.
I disagree with that statement.
Okay.
Wholeheartedly.
You also, when I see this, when I see a change in ground ball rate or something like that, I look for a change in pitch mix, and naturally his split fingered fastball, his sinker, his slider and sinker his slider and sinker have increased, and that's going to add to, the sinker and the split-fingered fastball have increased, a tick up, and that's an effort to keep the ball down at least. I mean, I know he's trying to strike out guys too, but that's an effort. That's something that will contribute to the ground ball rate. So
yeah, no question about it. And one of the things
I look for, pitch deployment change.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that you're going to notice as we go through this list of gainers in terms of ground ball rate are a general reluctance to throw as many four-seam fastballs as they did in the past. And the four-seam fastball is great. It's top of the zone. You can get some strikeouts. You can change eye level, et cetera, et cetera. But that's a pitch that's pretty easy to elevate relative to others. So I feel like this will be pretty consistent. You see guys like Yamamoto using almost 30% splitters this year, and that is a pitch that is really hard to elevate for hitters. So the ground ball rate being 63%, pretty understandable. He's an excellent pitcher. I'm really enthused by what I'm seeing.
I think one of the problems with the four-seam fastball is hitters adjust to velocity. You don't really beat hitters. I mean, if you have massive velocity, you can beat hitters on occasion, but major league hitters can hit velocity. They could hit a bullet if they know when it's coming and where it's going. But what happened was, I think hitters closed off the bottom of the zone, so fastballs had to come up in the zone, and that led to elevation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think in part for sure, and it's just been a general trend in the game. Like, we've been talking about this for 6-7 years now.
Yep.
Back when we were praying for Christian Yelich to figure out that he needs to elevate the ball more than 20% of the time to be a productive hitter, and then he figured it out, and we're like, oh, look, genius.
Well, again, I think a lot of that would go to the Christian Yelich example all the time. I think a lot of that was asking him to be a different player. What he was with Giancarlo Stanton there and hitting in 7th and 8th in the order was a different player. They were asking him to be a different player than after Stanton left.
Well, they were, but he became a more efficient version of himself by elevating the ball. There's a point, and this is the Ke'Bryan Hayes example for me, and I think his is somewhat injury related, more than it is desire to not elevate the ball. But man, I mean, if you're hitting the ball 50 to 60% of the time on the ground, you are limiting yourself to singles and doubles. You're not going to hit a ground ball triple. So, I feel like a lot of these guys, this is not rocket science. You have to be able to hit the ball in the air to do damage.
So you got to wonder what these guys are doing. We're talking hitters now when we should be talking pitchers. But you wonder what these guys do. Like a Ke'Bryan Hayes, does he go to the third party? Does he go to drive line? Does he go to something like that and try to learn how to hit the ball in the air? Because obviously it hasn't occurred to him naturally.
Well, it felt like it did for a brief moment in time. And then, the back injuries, I think, have sapped his ability to get the torque needed to get the elevation to hit the ball out of the park. He still hits it hard, but it's like old school Christian Yelich. It's a lot of line drives and ground balls. So
because it felt like Yelich just kind of decided to lift the ball.
It did feel like that.
He decided to.
And you could just see that he went from being a player with potential to a bona fide superstar the second that he decided to do it.
Yep. And then went to Milwaukee and was a bona fide superstar, and then decided not to do it for some reason, although injuries.
Back injury, again, the back thing, man. I mean, back injuries are the bane of existence for hitters, for golfers, for basically anybody that's making that move.
But people,
if your back hurts, like I just felt mine tweak making that little tiny turn. And I looked at my swing speed. These back problems started for me last June, and I went onto a launch monitor and I checked out my swing speed, and I went from 113, 114 with my driver to 105 to 106. And I mean,
with a tweak.
Not
even with an injury.
I had 2 stress fractures and 2 herniated discs.
Oh, God,
so that was, and these are things that players will play through. Like Yelich had a discectomy this offseason. He's been playing with herniated discs for a couple of years. This is what he's dealing with. And I know they have a much better training regimen than my fat ass does. But man, I mean, I saw that's an 8% decline with 1 back injury.
So Yamamoto is legit. The XFIP and XERA say it's legit, not the 106, of course, but he's pitching really well. He's doing everything we ask him to do. He's limiting walks. He's striking out guys, keeping the ball on the ground. He's keeping the ball in the ballpark. So
He's an ace.
He's an ace, and it's emerging now. We're coming to see it a little bit as he gets more comfortable here in the United States.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he's going to be critical to the Dodgers, who have had about as many pitching injuries as you could expect in a given season. And we just got to May.
And whatever Dustin May is doing.
Dustin May's another guy. Like the ground ball rates are great, but it just always feels like there should be more there than you see.
David Peterson with the Mets having an interesting year, but his ground ball rate's up to 58% from his career rate of about 50.9%. That's a significant jump and showing up. He's pitching pretty well, but he had a good season last year as well.
He had a good season last year, but that was a little more smoke and mirrors than what we're seeing now, I think. This is like some legitimate improvement from a guy that I've always kind of panned. I know he's had a couple good seasons. In fact, he's had 3 seasons with an ERA under 3.85 of his 5. And people seem to like this guy, and I just did not care for him until this year. All of a sudden, now you're seeing it's not just the ground ball rate improvement, which 59% is excellent. Up from 50 and kind of steadily increasing through his career now in his 6th year with the Mets. But for me, it's the walk rate, man. I mean, he was at 4 walks per 9 pretty consistently through his first 4 seasons with the Mets. Last year, some control improvement, dropped that to 3.4. So I was seeing a little bit of optimism this spring, and now he's down at 2.5. Like, that's good. And you combine that with, now all of a sudden you've got a good walk rate, you've got an excellent ground ball rate. So what if you're not like the world's greatest strikeout pitcher, which he was when he was a little more wild, up in the 12s for swing strike rate. So that was above average. Last year, he was slightly below average at 10.9. This year, getting a little more chase, but not getting a lot of swings and misses, 8.5%, but that's fine. Of the 3, and we've talked about this a lot, I think you can make the argument of the 3 pillars that we talk about, keeping the ball on the ground, not walking guys, and making guys swing and miss. You could make the argument that the latter there that everybody focuses on, making guys swing and miss, might be the least important of the 3.
Yep. Walks being the most important, or the closest correlation. When Anthony codified this and did some regression on it, that was the order of correlation: walk rate, a ground ball rate, and strikeout rate.
That's the way I see it anymore. And
he's almost prototypical for this whole principle, isn't he? Because, and it's not even the 58% ground ball rate; it's the 17% fly ball rate that really impresses me. And you look at the quality of the contact, and the quality of contact actually slipped, except he's got a 3.5 degree launch angle, which has kept his barrel rate to 5.1%. He's giving up better quality of contact, but it's on the ground. So
and that's the thing. I think the delta between his fastball and change has increased. And I think that's a big part of the increase in chase rate, but also the fact that their hitters are hitting the ball on the ground a lot more. I think they're getting fooled just enough that he's able to kind of keep things into singles and doubles, which this is where we are now. The xERA on his StatCast data is a little bit of a red flag. So I'm not all in on David Peterson. I think there's been a bit of luck here. I don't quite believe the xFIP. The xERA is 4.45. The xFIP is 2.88. Somewhere between the two lies the truth.
80% left on base percentage, but he's been a relatively high left on base guy anyway. And if you're not walking guys, that helps that situation as well. Here's the question, though: when we see this, and we see what is obviously an approach change here, what happens when the tape gets out?
That's always the thing, right? There's adjustments. You adjust back. It's a pendulum thing all the time. So I think the key here is that the combination of the lower walk rate, substantially lower walk rate, and the increased ground ball rate into the elite category gives him some latitude. Like, all right, he's going to have a few games where it's like 5 innings and 9 hits and 1 walk and 3 Ks, and you're going to say, oh, well, Peterson, he's not that great. But if that's your floor, now that's significantly different than the 2023 Peterson, where he's going to have games where he gets absolutely lit up because he's walking 4 guys per 9 and giving up over a homer. So
you're talking about his control and his walk rate. He gave up 8 of his 9 walks this year in his first 2 starts.
Right. He's looked really good the last month.
Yeah, 3 walks and 5 walks in his first 2 starts, and then he's given up 1 walk in 4 starts since. So he's really toned down that walk rate.
Yeah, he has, and he's done it while maintaining the ground ball rate. So obviously, this is sort of an intended change, as far as I can tell. So yeah, you're going to have a higher BABIP this year, and he's going to get singled to death a few times. But I like what I'm seeing. I think that he's a reliable back end starter at this point.
Yep, and certainly a very good streamer. You can pick your stats and do very well.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. He's not somebody I would really be afraid of for many teams.
But he's because of the ground ball rate and the way he throws. If he's going into Philadelphia or he's going into Colorado, he might take a shot at it.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely true.
Because he's less susceptible to what's going on in those two ballparks.
Yep.
All right,
sure.
Max Meyer he's got like a cult following in fantasy baseball, doesn't he?
Yeah, man.
I'm hearing about Max Meyer all the time.
So I'll be upfront with everybody. Like, I've loved Max Meyer since he got drafted.
Yeah.
So, I've been a big Max Meyer guy. So for me to say what I'm going to say should carry a little bit of weight. I think he's a sell high guy.
Okay.
So I've loved the guy, and I'm watching. Actually, I think I wrote something up last week or the week before, one of my columns. I was like, this is the Max Meyer that I expected to see, where he's just making everybody miss. The control it's inconsistent, but it's sort of average. So that's okay. Average control, lots of swinging and missing, and a 56% ground ball rate. I'll take it. But he's 50% sliders. 50% sliders. Like, that is another injury waiting to happen. I'm sorry. I will not get past that mindset, whether it's correct, incorrect. Will Carroll might flog me for it. But guys that throw that many sliders, it just seems to me, have more arm injuries than the general null pool.
By the way, 57 innings in the majors last year, 6 in the majors the year before, 34 this year. He's already halfway through his his inning total for last year.
Well, yeah, but he threw 115 innings last year. So I think he can get up 140, 150 maybe. So if he stays healthy, I love Max Meyer, right? But I feel like there's just, like you said, there's a little bit of a cult following here, and people watched his last couple starts where people can't hit that slider. I think he got like 20 swinging strikes on it a couple games ago, and I was just like, man, I mean, that is unhittable. Looks like Jeff Nelson's slider back in the day, just a frisbee going up there. And so he's really entertaining, but I just can't help feeling like there's a pretty low floor here.
I got a guy at the sportsbook who religiously bets the under on Miami games when Max Meyer is going. It's just like he just walks in and yeah, I know. It's like it's that kind of thing goes on with Max Meyer. It's kind of interesting. Quality of contact's not great. I'm not impressed by the quality of contact.
Well, don't make much contact.
Yeah,
so kind of okay.
When he makes a mistake, yeah, right.
Well, ball go in fast, ball go out fast. So you got that. But, the ground ball rate, 44%, 50%, 56% in his 3 major league seasons. His velocity's up a full mile an hour. The sliders, I mean, it's just awesome. But he still has these starts. Like, last start was 4 innings, 4 walks. He can get wild. Half sliders. Most guys, like, the slider is generally a chase pitch.
Yep.
So if people are laying off the slider, he doesn't have another great offering. So I do think that as we move through May here, I think you're going to see a few struggles with Meyer. I would not mind shopping him one bit. Not that I think it's going to be horrible, but I just don't think he's going to be this good.
So this is a book type of situation where the book might get out on him a little bit. And just like, you're not going to get beat with other pitchers, so lay off the slider and see if you can throw it for strikes.
Yeah, kind of like Kodai Senga with the ghost fork. Like, just don't swing at it.
Yeah.
He rarely throws it for a strike. Don't swing at it.
Yeah. And, try not to get too leveraged in the count against him.
Yeah, absolutely. It is nice. He's mixed in the sinker quite a bit more this year and minimized the 4-seam fastball, which was honestly like it's probably his least effective pitch. So I think sinker slider stuff, it's great, man. So many pitchers have made a living on a sinker slider offering, but it's not generally a high K thing. I mean, that's more of a Clay Holmes kind of a thing where, you're not really going for the strikeout so much as you're going for the ground balls. So,
man, I want to go into the splits and look at his third time through. I mean, all the samples are small here, but when you're a one pitch pony like that, and it's like you can't throw a major league hitter 6 sliders in the course of a game and expect him not to catch up to it.
That's a fair point. And I've often thought that Max Meyer would be a brilliant closer.
Yeah. If he can control it, right? But that's not even high leverage pitchers. You don't even have to control the walks all that much.
No, because you can air it out then, and then he could really go for the Ks. He'd be striking out 14, 15 men per 9 probably.
Yeah, I like it. Reese Olson, haven't until his name came up, hadn't thought about him much this year, but not a bad start so far.
Wow, like I've heard a lot of rumblings about Reese Olson. He's his last couple starts. Is his last couple starts, or was it just the one start? Okay, it was the 2 starts before the last one. He went 12 and a third scoreless innings, striking out 12 guys.
Yeah.
Against the Royals and the Padres, so not like incredibly great offenses, but not pushovers either. They're average offenses. He looks pretty good at times. And that ground ball rate's gone from 43% 2 years ago to 50 last year to 53.5 this year. And obviously carrying the home run rate down with it. Control's been a little iffy this year, and the exit velocity against has been poor. But the swing strike rate has gone up quite a bit. So I have some tempered optimism here. He's up over 13% swing strike rate, which is, you're getting up into the very good category at that point. I know the K per 9 doesn't necessarily match up with that, but he's pretty impressive. So, I like him. He's got a good offense behind him. Pitching the AL Central, you're not going up against excellent offenses all the time. So, back end starter, a streaming candidate. Yeah, I'm down with Reese Olson.
Yeah, in that category, yes, I am too. But here's the thing: we get with the 3 pillars, and you and I used to look at it as home run rate and strikeout rate and walk rate. And he's decent, but he's not great at striking out guys. He's decent, but he's not great at controlling the walks, but he does keep the ball in the ballpark with that home run rate. That's interesting, but I'm looking at the ground ball rate at 53.4% and only a 4.3% home run to fly ball rate. Is that sustainable? Because he's throwing a lot of ground balls, but he's not throwing enough ground balls to overcome the fact that, he walks some guys and he doesn't strike out a ton of guys.
Yeah, he was 50.5% last year with a 7% homer to fly ball rate. So I think, I'd have to say it's mostly sustainable after 150 innings.
Yeah, but you put it in an exact category. At where you're characterizing him is perfect, as opposed he's not a top half of the rotation. Shouldn't be for any fantasy team.
Oh no,
he's a useful guy.
No, but I mean, you're watching the xFIP go from 390 to 370 to 357 this year over his 3 years. And I think you are seeing a pitcher that is generally getting better. And the K per 9, I mean, I know the Ks per 9 are below average, but the swing strike rate is above average. And anybody that can have a swing strike rate above average can have an above average K per 9. This is the Christopher Sanchez thing. Like, are they going for the Ks, or are they just trying to get ahead so they can get a ground ball?
Yeah, and we've seen growth in that over the 3 seasons too. So that's legitimate growth at this point.
I think so. I actually do like this kid as a pitcher. I just think that maybe the talk has gotten a little ahead of the stuff. Because I see a lot of people talking him up, and I think, maybe he could be an SP4 in a 12-team league. Detroit's
shown some good. I'm a big fan of picking out good pitching organizations, good pitching development organizations. They've shown some signs. They didn't screw up Screwable.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been hard to screw up. He's pretty good.
Oh, I don't know. I've seen organizations screw up pitchers.
Yeah, many times.
Even guys that good.
Well, not usually guys that good, but guys like Reese Olson can definitely get screwed up.
All right, why are you making me talk about Griffin Canning?
Because that's my son's name, and I tend to somehow find a way to get every Griffin that exists on my experts league team.
Oh, there you go.
Now, Griffin Canning, I've had a soft spot for him ever since he came up with the Angels. I think that there's always been potential here in varying degrees. So you watch him when he came up, and he was like a terrible control. He can miss some bats, but gets hit pretty hard. 35% ground ball rate in his third season, 36 in his second, 37 in his first. Then all of a sudden he jumped up a level to 42, backtracked a little last year in his 1 year where he pitched 31 starts, 172 innings. And he just looked pretty bad last year, really. And then all of a sudden he comes over to the Mets, 51% ground ball rate. Now this is different. This is a different guy. He's never been anywhere near this level for any length of time. Walk rate is still an issue, certainly. But walk rate without home runs, that's kind of okay. He's got a huge strand rate, so there's definitely some luck here. Exit velocity is poor. I think he could be a streamer. You're seeing a 356 xFIP, a 392 xERA. I think somewhere in the high threes, he could be that. And that is better than league average. And any pitcher that's better than league average needs to be owned.
Yep.
So that's why we're talking about Griffin Canning.
More emphasis on the slider and his deployment, of course. And that has to be, the question has to be at that point, is the slider good enough to sustain these gains?
Yes, his slider's pretty good.
All right. What else did I want to see in here? Strikeout rate. Yeah, so a change in organizations, that's something always to watch for pitchers. I say this all the time. Pitchers like, wild dogs. They just pick up things here and there. And whenever a pitcher changes his organization, you kind of got to pay attention a little bit, because just talking to a different set of coaches can make a big difference for a pitcher.
Oh, no doubt about it, particularly when they go someplace.
Next to a guy in a locker, right?
Look at Houston. Look at Tampa Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Guys go there, you sit up and take notice.
Yep.
When is the last time the Angels developed a good pitcher?
Very true. Yeah,
I can't even tell you the last guy.
When Houston grabs a guy, or Atlanta grabs a guy, or something like that, your ears pick up, because what they see something, right? And they're going to make the most of it. Tampa Bay, another good example.
Yeah,
San Francisco, another good example.
The Mets aren't necessarily a bad example, but the Angels are. So you go from generally what you'd regard as a poor pitching development organization to one that's at least neutral. And I mean, that's something that should increase a player's value. These are things that we should pay attention to.
Yeah, no, they're not sending a pitcher to the surgeon every 6 weeks like they used to in the past.
Now you're just remembering Pulsifer Isringhausen and Paul Wilson.
That was the start of it, but it lasted.
How many career innings did they pitch for the Mets? Like a couple hundred, maybe.
I know,
so sad.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for the Mets. Like, people think that Yankee fans hate the Mets. Many Yankee fans, especially the ones that aren't native New Yorkers, like I'm an upstater, we kind of treat the Mets like our kid brother. You guys are cute. We'll root for you.
Well, that was a problem with them for a long time, even after the Pulsifer, and even after that the Holy Trinity there that screwed up down. And that's what I mean about screwing up pitchers. Bad organizations screw up pitchers. And look at the Orioles for a while there back in the day.
Do I have to? Like that team is going to break my heart, and they're in the division of my favorite team.
Yeah.
But I had a bunch of buddies that are O's fans. I had a lot of friends in Baltimore when I was in college and just after. We went to a lot of Orioles games. Like, this team 2 years ago, this team was ready. You could see the window opening starting like last year for maybe 3 or 4 years. And you're sitting there thinking, all right, well, they went out and got Flaherty. They could probably make one more move. They're one more pitcher short. And then, they let Flaherty go for some inane reason, and then don't pick anybody else up. And now they're sitting there, they're like 2 or 3 pitchers short, and they don't have enough room for all the bats that they have. And I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it's a Northeast thing or not, but things are better when the Orioles are good. I mean, we say it all the time. When the Red Sox and Yankees are good, things are better. It's just, everything's just more fun.
Things are better when everybody's good.
Yeah, it's true.
I hate having crappy teams. Like, there's no reason.
Last year, the Orioles came into Fenway early on, and I just liked this roster. I just liked the team. They were just fun to watch. And
yeah.
Yeah.
The bullpen's nice.
Yep.
The lineup is loaded, and they're loaded at AAA. Like, there are plenty of guys. I don't know what they're doing.
Yep.
Like, this is a classic case. Like, I wish we would do this in America, where the fans just chant, "You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing." They do that in soccer all the time over there when you have a clear management issue.
Yeah, I'm writing I was writing up Kobe Mayo this week for the Prospect Central this weekend, and it's like, it just brings the whole roster into focus. And it's like, what are we doing here?
He's starting to hit, man, and they have no place for him.
They have no place for him. And I predicted it last year, and it didn't come true. But he looks like a trade deadline candidate to me, because they're going to need a pitcher. They're going
to need a pitcher, or they're just quitting, and so for some reason they're going to shut a wide open window on themselves.
Yeah,
I don't get it. And Heston Kjerstad, the only reason he's playing is because Colton Cowser broke his arm.
Yep.
There's too many guys. They have too many guys.
Too many guys. Move them out. See, and developing prospects, developing a farm system, and the Red Sox haven't figured this one out yet, although they kind of did with Garrett Crochet. Is part of it is develop players for your team. Yes, part of it is to develop players to trade. Right?
Absolutely. And this is how I treat my dynasty teams constantly. Yep. It's rare for me to actually bring a guy up like all through my minors and then have him become a part of my team.
Yep.
Prospects, the odds of the best prospects around, the odds of them being successful are what? Like a absolute top 10 prospect. What are the odds of them having a great career? 1 in 4?
Yeah.
1-5.
And
Like, give me the guy who's playing now.
Here's the thing: you have to cash in on that prospect value. You have to. There are limits. There are Bryce Harper. There's Paul Skeens. There's guys when they come through. But I'll trade a prospect for help and win a championship because you know what? Next year there's going to be a prospect none of us have ever heard of.
Absolutely true. Flag fly forever too.
Yep.
Yeah, I just like people get so bent when I will trade the number 15 prospect in baseball for Ian Happ or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, why would you trade for Ian Happ? Well, in a 16-team league, Ian Happ is pretty good.
Yep.
And the odds of this dude being Ian Happ are maybe 10%, 15%.
5 years from now.
Yeah, exactly. So like, why am I going to sit on this dude when my best hope is that he probably can become that guy?
Yep. Yeah, everybody, like in my house league, I traded off a bunch of Vlad Guerrero and guys like that when they were prospects, and it's like they kind of throw it in my face a little bit, and I go, well, 4 or 5 championships, so
Well, yeah. I'm thinking of my own situation, and I hate belaboring my own situations, but like Colson Montgomery.
Yeah.
2 years ago, everybody wanted him off my team, and I should have traded him, but I was like, no, you know what? I kind of have a hole coming up at shortstop, so he'll be up next year. I'm going to keep him.
Yeah.
Here we are 2 years later. He's languishing in AAA. Doesn't even look like he's ready. And what's his trade value now? It's like nothing.
Yeah. And meanwhile,
that's what happens with so many prospects.
Meanwhile, 10 hot prospects have revealed themselves.
Absolutely.
Right.
You got to maximize the value. I mean, every once in a while, you're going to have a guy that's just your guy, and okay, you want to ride him, fine. But just recognize what's likely to happen.
All right, it's Pablo Lopez. This is an interesting guy. This is a guy that often people depend on a little bit, not necessarily to be a number 1 or 2 starter, but they take him, usually they want something out of Pablo Lopez, and it hasn't always been the case. Although last year was a disappointment. He's been good. He just hasn't taken that next level that we all expected him to.
He's just one of those guys that every single year you look at his xFIP and you say, oh man, he's going to be so much better next year.
Yeah.
And he just isn't. So this year, of course, he's so vastly outperforming his xFIP. I think his stuff has actually deteriorated a little bit for me. The ground ball rate's back up, but it's not super high. He's up 6.5% from last year. He's up probably, we'll say 3 or 4% from his last 4 years on average. So yeah, it's up, and the control keeps getting better, which is a very good thing. But the bat missing stuff it's just not as good as it has been. He looks like a kind of mid-rotation innings muncher to me now, and I really did feel like there was going to be more there at some point.
Yeah, and the walk rate is encouraging. You like that, but he doesn't punch out enough guys. And the home run rate is down right at this point, but it's early. I'm not going to I don't think I'm going to like him in June and July.
I don't know. I mean, he doesn't get hit really hard usually. The hard hit rates against him last year was the highest of his career at 37%.
Yep.
This year he's back down to 34 where he usually is. So you look at his StatCast ERAs, and he's a mid-threes guy. This year he happens to be up quite a bit. I think that will normalize, kind of to your point. But I think he's a 3.5 ERA guy for me. It's good, but I just always felt like he was going to be great at some point.
Oh yeah, exactly. He hasn't taken that. He hasn't jumped that level that we thought he was. He's a mid.
He's in year 8, man. It ain't happening.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
he's a good pitcher. Perfectly serviceable.
Definitely a sell high though at this point, don't you think?
I mean, it depends on how people value him. Because I think he's an SP3 in 12-team leagues.
Yep.
So if people value him like maybe he's going to be an ace at some point, sure, trade him.
Well, sitting there with a 2.25 ERA, people who aren't looking that deeply.
If that's what they're going to focus on, then sure, yeah, because that's not him.
Yeah, and again, we got to say this because we always say this: ERA. We put too much emphasis on ERA. It's everyone knows about the predictability of stats. You don't pay much attention to wins because it's largely circumstantial. It's less predictable than wins? ERA on a year-to-year basis. And I love that perspective that Anthony gave us a couple of years ago. And it's like I just treat it accordingly. I look at the ERA, I go, okay, because it could end up a half a run either way.
It just sort of crystallized it. Like we all kind of knew that.
Yeah.
Like I don't even look at ERA usually. I look at xFIP and that's it. to kind of determine how well a guy is
That's
pitching.
your favorite alternate ERA
Yeah, it
as
is.
opposed to expected ERA?
It is. I like it a little better because the expected ERA formula, like we'll talk about that, but I don't understand what they're doing with it because it doesn't make sense with what I see often.
Yeah.
Like case in point, the next guy we're going to talk about.
Brandon Pfaaat.
Yeah, this guy, and I am absolutely colored a little bit in my judgment by the game that I watched him pitch the last day of the season last year. Because I was sitting there in the front row of the stands, and I'm watching him, and I'm like, this dude is freaking unhittable. Like, they can't touch him. And it was the Padres. Good offense.
Yeah.
And he was unhittable. You look at him this year, and the xFIP of 334. Yeah, sure, okay. ERA's 278. So he's been a little lucky. Ground ball rate has gone from 32% to 41.5 to 47.5 over 3 seasons. The control's gone from 2.5 to 2 to 1.5 walks per 9. This is all really good stuff.
Yep.
But you look at the exit velocity allowed, and it's a little below average. The fly ball rate has continued to come down. Obviously, when the ground ball rate's going up, usually you're going to get the fly ball rate coming down too. The stuff's good. He's a 5-pitch guy. Throws 5 pitches at least 13% of the time. Uses the full arsenal. Swing strike rate's down a touch. Chase rate's up a touch. Like everything's pretty good with Pfaaat. And then you look at the StatCast expected ERA, and it's 5. Like,
yeah.
How? I don't see that. That doesn't make sense to me at all. I've watched the guy pitch. I do not understand what they're doing there. That doesn't make sense to me, so I'm just going to ignore it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to dig into the formula a little bit. I'm not going to dig into the formula because God knows what the hell they have going on there. Aggregate stats can be problematic, and that's kind of the way to approach them for me. You look at it and just weigh it accordingly. The 501 doesn't make sense unless that's based on quality of contact, because quality of contact's not 501 bad. But
it's not. It's like it's average to average minus. It's not that bad. The thing is that he's had a fairly easy schedule. The first 3 games were kind of tough. Cubs, Nationals are a little. I mean, top half of the national lineup is nice. Yep. Baltimore, but then he got at Miami, Tampa, and Atlanta's just getting going a little bit now. But he's pitched. He's 4 quality starts out of 6. The 5th one against Miami, he went 5 2/3 and gave up a run, so that's fine. And the one at Washington, he gave up 3 homers. So, it happens.
It's also got that, and I know it's old school, but the 86% left on base percentage, that shows a little bit of luck so far.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely been lucky. He's not a 2 ERA guy.
No.
But if you told me he's going to have an ERA of 3.50 at the end of the year, I'd say, yeah, I can buy that. And this is a guy that his last 2 years were 570 and 470.
And he's doing it with a strikeout rate that I'm a little bit uncomfortable with. Even the swinging strike rate, the swinging strike rate is average. The strikeout rate is below average.
Yeah, his swinging strike rate is average, but I'm telling you, man, like I watched him in that start last year, and it's not like the Padres were punting; they were playing. And he struck out Luis Arias a couple times, I think. Like if you can strike out him, you can strike people out.
He's got a good chase rate, and the CSW is not excellent either. It's just like I'm accepting your eyeball test, and I understand it, but I'm not seeing it.
No, I wasn't seeing it for a lot of last year either. So it was 1 start, but I have watched him a little bit this year, and I think he looks pretty good. I'm buying most of this. He's not the greatest, but is he a top 50 starter? Yeah, I would probably put him at the back end of that.
Yes, he's a top 50 starter. What's his ERA for the rest of the year? Now that we just discounted the ERA totally, but
365.
Yeah. Fair enough. I'd go a little over, but yeah.
Plenty good enough.
Yeah, good enough. And he's available in a lot of places too.
He is, and I don't get it. He's a good pitcher. He shouldn't be available.
All right. I always love talking Yankees with you. Carlos Rodon.
Especially the Yankees that I don't particularly care for.
Well, they're fun too, yes.
And this is completely just my opinion. I don't know anything about this. I don't know Carlos Rodon. He just strikes me as a guy whose effort level is questionable at times.
Yeah. Well, we've had this discussion since his contract year.
Yep. And
his last contract year.
He has been much better this year. And really a lot of that improvement is predicated on what we're talking about today's topic, which is the ground ball rate. Yankee Stadium, a ground ball rate of 27 or 34%, which is what he's had the last 2 years, and you're going to allow a boatload of homers.
Yep.
This year, 47%, especially as a lefty, that's very workable. And look at that. The home run rate's down to 1.3 per nine from 1.6 last year and 2.1 in his first year as a Yankee, which made me pretty much despise him. So he's striking out a ton of guys. The walk rate is way up this year, and he's doing all of that with less velocity. It's confusing. The swing strike rate's down 3%, down to the average range.
Chase rate, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, none of this looks great. The walk rate's up a ton. The ground ball rate is up a ton, but it's still not great. It's just kind of like in the average plus category now. And I know the K rate's really high, but I'm not seeing it. Like, I'm watching him pitch, and he's not really fooling guys any more than the average pitcher does.
The CSW was pretty good, and that indicates to me there's probably been a change in deployment, right?
Has there been? I didn't really notice much of one.
Well,
he's throwing 10% fewer fastballs, but all he's doing is he incorporated a two-seamer that he's throwing 9% of the time instead of the four-seamer all the time.
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, it's 10% less from last year. It's almost 20% less from the year before. So,
well, this is a Yankee thing. Like, they've been doing this since the Masahiro Tanaka days.
Yeah.
So, I like Rodon just fine, but I feel like every league has a Yankee fan in it. He's worth pawning. I think there's a tendency for certain people to value him much more highly than I feel that he should be valued.
Is his stock up in Yankee fandom? The Yankees fans buying into it?
I don't know Yankee fans. I don't like Yankee fans in general.
You are a Yankee fan.
I'm a baseball fan who likes the Yankees.
Yeah.
That there is a difference.
No, I got you.
I mean, you must know rabid Red Sox fans that are not pleasant to be around.
Hence my bias against Red Sox prospects.
There you go. See?
Listening to it too much. They're all
more of like mind, man.
Yep. I mean,
I'm not a huge Rodon guy. I'm not. I feel like the Rodon we saw of 2021 and 2022, we're never seeing that guy again. He doesn't exist.
Right.
He's a myth. It's the tales of King Arthur, okay?
You got to get him that motivated again. And I don't know if you can get him that motivated again.
I mean, it's easier to be motivated when you don't have generational wealth than when you do.
It's true.
Not that I'm going to, I'm overly cynical. I am. I mean, clearly. But, I feel like, and he looks like he really does look like he's motivated, but he's just not the same guy. The arm is not the same.
Is it a playing in New York type of thing?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose it's possible, but he seems like the kind of personality-wise, that will do well with it.
Yep.
His wife is pretty rough on Twitter. She does not like Yankee fans.
Well,
I mean, it's a justifiable opinion.
But. Yeah. No, I understand it. But, I mean, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, maybe he doesn't handle pressure all that well. Certainly a lot more pressure than it was with the White Sox.
He handled pressure pretty well in San Francisco.
That's true. Well, is San Francisco a real pressure environment?
I mean, there were pressure-filled games. It's not a pressure-filled fan base, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
They like their baseball out there. They're great fans. It's a great park, too.
But they're not going to pile on a guy if he's not pitching well like Yankees.
Generally speaking, no. They give people a lot of latitude.
Yep.
They're pretty laid back.
Tanner Bibby has seen a big increase in his ground ball rate, but it hasn't translated into success so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about a guy that I'm down on, it's this guy. I really just do not care for him as a pitcher.
What's not to like about Tanner Bibby? He's a nice guy. He probably loves dogs.
He may be the kindest gentleman that ever walked the face of the earth, but let's face it.
A big change in his profiles. If we took his 3 stat lines from Tanner Bibby that we've seen so far, certainly last year and this year, we'd think it was 2 different pitchers.
We would, and he looks like, for me, he looks like there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Walk rate is up, chase rate's down, swing strike rate's down, ground ball rate's up. He's got a 90% strand rate, a 230 BABIP. Like, everything here is super fortunate, if you ask me.
Yep.
The xFIP is only 459, and I say only because the ERA is 436, because he's allowing 2.5 homers per 9.
Yep.
He does not look good. And it's funny because this is almost a complete organizational sort of thing. Like, everybody was expecting Gavin Williams to look awesome this year, and he had one really good start that I remember, but he's been really disappointing too. And they
Something
thought that these two guys were going to lead the way, and they have not.
Something's missing with Gavin Williams too. I loved him as a prospect, but this something that's not right.
His arm looks great. Like Bibey's arm, that doesn't even look all that good to me. I'm not super enchanted here. Like he's throwing a ton more cutters and a ton more sinkers this year, and it looks like that's pitch to contact stuff, but his control of those pitches seems less positive. And he's allowing a ton of homers despite the increased ground ball rate. So whatever he's doing, it ain't working.
There are a bunch of deal breakers here for me where I'm not going to roster this guy. I mean, it's sub 7%, sub 7 per 9 strikeout rate, the 3.8 per 9 walk rate, 8.5% swinging strike rate, 20%, 25% chase rate, 2.5 home runs per 9. Any one of them alone are deal breakers for me. You combine 2 or 3 of these together and forget it. I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, I'm surprised his ERA isn't closer to his FIP ERA, which is 6.5.
Yeah.
I don't like this at all, what I'm seeing from Bibey. I don't like it a bit. So
no, and there are so many options out there, right? I mean, even some of the deeper, more knowledgeable leagues, there are starting pitchers out there that you'd rather run out there against over this guy.
I just grabbed Colin Ray. I never would have rostered him before, but he's a little better this year. The stuff has ticked up a notch. And I'm like, you know what? I would take Colin Ray over Tanner Bibey right now in a minute.
I had Glasnow go down in a 12-team league that's fairly educated, and we got limits on starting pitchers, only 6 per roster at this point. But of course, there are injured pitchers and stuff like that. And I picked up Mize because I passed on Pfaaat because I didn't like his matchups this week. So went with Mize, and there were several options. It's like I can live with a bunch of these guys.
Oh, that's the thing is in most leagues right now, you can go on the waiver wire and there's 4 or 5 starting pitchers that you're like, yeah, this will be fine for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so don't put up with this. Don't put up with what Tanner's doing.
Absolutely not. I mean, man, nothing about this looks good. He's been very fortunate.
All right, now let's switch over to some guys who have lost some ground on their ground ball rate. And Clay Holmes is here. He's still a 55, 56% ground ball rate guy. But
that's down a lot.
Lower than his history, right?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is Clay Holmes hasn't been a starter at the major league. He was brought up as a starter through the minors.
Yep. And
he started 4 games back in 2018 for the Pirates, and they moved him to the bullpen. And he's been there ever since, throwing up ground ball rates between 60 and 76%.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of ground balls.
Yes.
Clay Holmes he's a sinker slider guy, or was as a reliever. And, I questioned the wisdom of the Mets converting him back to starter. I thought that the stuff would just I thought that he'd be kind of, let me see if I can, like a Derek Lowe kind of guy where he's just much more valuable in the bullpen than as a starter.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been pretty good. Like the quality of contact is average. The stuff has ticked down as you would expect. He's down a couple miles an hour in velocity. But, he's added a changeup that he had back when he came up as a starter. Yep. And completely, he ditched that. He ditched the curve over the years. Curve hasn't come back. But, he's minimized the sinker usage. He was a couple of years ago at 80% sinkers and 20% sliders, and that's it. And this year, 33% sinkers, 30% sliders. Got 10% cutters, 18% change. He's mixing it up. But, he's a below average bat misser as a starter. And the control has never really been a big strong point of his. And he's walking almost 4 per 9. I'm not seeing this 10.5K per 9 thing. It doesn't make any sense to me. And he's not going to have a 0% homer to fly ball rate for much longer either. So Clay Holmes for me is a sell high guy, but I do think he can be kind of a top 40 to 50 starter the rest of the way too. So it depends on what you need. If you're okay with an SP4, SP5 kind of a guy, sure, keep him. I think he can be that. But if you're going to look at him like Mets fans are looking at him like the savior of our rotation, sell him.
Yeah, I don't know what he's got to keep him off the sinker slider combination because he's throwing a changeup, but I don't know how effective he is with it. And he's not throwing it a ton. He's throwing fastballs again at 8.6%. He was throwing no 4-seam fastballs. Velocity's down to 92.7. Explain that to me.
Well, I mean,
he's a 94. He's a mid-90s guy as a reliever.
He was airing it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is educational for just how much max effort can give you in terms of velocity. If you're only going out there for 20 to 30 pitches maximum, that's worth 4 miles an hour, apparently, in Clay Holmes' world. And I bet that that's pretty universal.
That's a lot.
It is.
He's not throwing a ton of fastballs, so he's not tiring himself out. But he is a max effort guy.
I was going to say that the sinker slider combo is still 2/3 of his pitches, and those are max effort pitches for him.
Yep. And those velocities are down considerably too.
They are. I mean, this is kind of what you're getting, and he's averaging 5 innings a start, which is good in this day and age. That's good, but with poor control and much less bat missing than that K per 9 would lead you to believe, I'm not super optimistic here. I think he can be okay.
So with that, going over his pitch deployment and his velocity issues and what you just outlined, we got to be looking at a pitch limit at this point, or an innings limit at this point.
You would think so. If you told me he was going to throw 125 innings for the year, I'd say, yep, all right.
Okay.
Probably.
Yeah, with some maintenance.
Yeah. So what's that, about 25 starts, 26 starts at his current rate? Like, all right. So he's probably going to get skipped a couple times down the stretch. I mean, I'm not super excited here. Like most Met fans that I know are really excited.
Well, he's pitched well. He's pitched well. He's striking out guys, so there's a reason to be excited. He's kept the ball in the ballpark too, which he normally does because of the ground ball rate.
Mm-hmm.
So
those are excellent homer per 9 rates. I mean, you look at his entire career, and the highest is 0.9.
Well, again, he was 60% ground ball rate, 68, 75%, 76% ground ball rate in 2022.
Yep. Well, I remember that was his first full year with the Yankees. Yeah. And I remember watching him come in. It was and still is so much movement on this guy's stuff. That sinker he throws looks like a wiffle ball. It kind of just comes up and then down and away to left-handed hitters, and it has so much movement that I can't believe people can elevate it.
This is kind of the trade-off, though, with the 3 pillars, because if we look at it, that home run rate and the ground ball rate gives you a little bit of leeway, especially if he's striking out guys. Gives you a little bit of leeway with the walks, but it's still more walks than I'm normally comfortable with. But if you're not giving up home runs and you're punching out guys here and there, I can live with a little extra, I guess.
Well, that's the thing, is the walk rate is only a problem if you can't do the other 2 things very well.
Right.
So as long as he's going to have a really high ground ball rate, which he should. I mean, this is like we have talked about, it's pretty low for him. But the Ks are what bother me. Like his swing strike rate's under 10. It's not very good.
Yeah.
So I feel like once hitters get a little more used to what they're seeing from his new arsenal, I think he's going to scuffle a little bit.
That's what I was getting at when I was wondering what keeps them off his best pitches, right?
Yeah, I think he's going to get singled to death a lot.
For him, right.
I think he'll get singled to death a lot as the season progresses, and that's problematic with as many walks as he allows.
All right, Shota Imanaga, 30% ground ball rate, not what we're looking for.
No, and I think, that he's been a major benefactor of, major beneficiary of the early season weather.
Mm-hmm.
We all know Wrigley in the summertime. If you have a 30% ground ball rate as a pitcher in Wrigley in the summertime, you better be really lucky.
Yep.
And I'm just not seeing it. I think he could allow 2 homers per 9 this year unless something changes. And if that's the case, we're going to see an ERA that is much closer to his xERA or xFIP, which are 491 and 467 respectively, than the 277 ERA that he posts. And I think this is important to note because not only do we have this, but we also have almost a doubling in walk rate. So as much as I love, considering the Japanese imports last year, as much as I love Yamamoto and think he is a legit ace, people that are trying to put Imanaga in the same category, I think he was fortunate last year, and he's been even more fortunate this year. Sooner or later, that luck is going to run out, and I don't want to be holding the bag when it is. For me, he is absolutely a sell-high guy.
Nothing looks good right now. The strikeout rate doesn't look good. The walk rate doesn't look good. The home run rate doesn't look good. It's only a matter before it's going to catch up to him.
Yeah, I mean, the K rate doesn't look good, but the swing strike rate is still decent. The chase rate is still decent. So I think the Ks will come back to a point. But I'm worried about the increase in walk rate, and I'm really worried about the ground ball rate. A 30% ground ball rate in Wrigley Field with an average exit velocity allowed of 90.5 already this year, a 12% barrel rate. This is a problem.
Rate. Yeah, that's what hit me, the 12% barrel rate, because that's quality of contact plus launch angle, and in Wrigley, that's going to be a problem.
It is definitely going to be a problem. I've seen a bunch of highlights this year in Wrigley already where there's balls that outfielders are just going back to the wall and then having to sprint in on.
Oh, yeah.
You've got some issues here. I'd be looking hard to sell him right now.
Yep. All right. The only thing better than talking about Yankees with you is ex-Yankees. So let's talk about Sonny Gray.
Sonny Gray was the least likely guy with his pitching style at the time to be successful in Yankee Stadium. And he had his 1 year there, and it is by far, well, all right, let's not say that because the last full year in Oakland was pretty bad too.
Yep.
But it was a really bad year, a 4.90 ERA for Sonny Gray that year. The thing is, when you look at Sonny Gray now versus Sonny Gray then, and we're going back 7-8 years, he is a completely different pitcher now.
Yep.
He was a ground ball guy. He struck guys out. Control was pretty sketchy. It was a good arm. Now he's more of a kind of a finesse guy, doesn't walk people, but the ground ball rate keeps going down. And I am starting to get a little leery here. Like, he still misses bats. Swing strike rate's still up around 12%. And the chase rate's pretty low, which means he's fooling guys in the zone. So that's good. It's a good sign. I don't think we're at the end of the road here for Sonny Gray. Unlike
it's a Shane Bieber type of situation, right?
Well, I mean, maybe. I think Bieber's stuff's a little better than Gray's, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not encouraging. You've seen a pretty steady decline in velocity throughout his 12-year major league career. He was a 94 guy for 3 years, and he was 93.5 for 5 years. Then he was 92.5 for 4 years. Now he's 92. At some point, the deterioration will catch up to him, but I don't think we're quite there yet. I think he's still a pretty good pitcher, but I don't love him. I think he's a mid-rotation guy.
The strikeout, oh, he's a mid-rotation guy. Strikeout rate is serviceable. He can't walk guys. He's got to control the walks, and he's got to keep the ball in the ballpark better than he has been. We'll see how that happens. That declining ground ball rate indicates that this may become a long-term problem for him, keeping the ball in the ballpark.
I think it's becoming a problem. He probably has a couple more years before it's like super problematic. But when you see the launch angle go from 7 to 9 to 12 to 10 to 12 to 16 over the last 5 years, it's a trend, okay? Like, this is what's happening. The fact that he is all of a sudden a great control guy, which he never was, is what's keeping him afloat from the somewhat declining stuff.
Generally, we overpaid this spring on Sonny Gray.
I think people did. I don't own a single share of him.
Yeah.
Which I'm ambivalent about. Like, I think he's okay.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's great.
He's on that borderline between a difference-making starter and a good starter in the glut, right?
I think the best thing about Sonny Gray is that he shows up.
Yeah.
He's pitched at least 117 innings every single year of his career. We don't count the COVID year. Yeah, I mean, he's just there. He shows up.
Right. He doesn't get hurt. So when you get a bunch of guys like I did at the beginning of the year that were injury risks, having Sonny Gray and knowing you're going to have him, or with the reasonable assumption that you're going to have him at least to help hold things down while you're mixing and matching components around him.
I got a question for you, a comparative. Who would you rather have, Sonny Gray or Aaron Nola?
Aaron Nola, I would think. But no? You tell me I'm wrong?
I'm not going to tell you you're wrong at all. That was a legit question. It wasn't a loaded question.
Yeah.
But they remind me of each other. I mean, Aaron Nola is even a little more reliable in terms of showing up and being there and giving you mid-rotation, sometimes better performance. But Nola, for me, Nola has these years where he just massively underperforms his peripherals. Gray doesn't tend to have those unless he's a Yankee.
But I've readjusted my expectations to Nola. I don't see him as a top. Well, I've kind of readjusted my expectations to Sonny Gray too. So it's kind of the same thing, right? Good comp.
Yeah, I think that they're very similar. But I think I probably prefer Gray very slightly.
Gray is wobbly right now, it seems to me. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm kind of looking at it and going, he's doing okay, but
it's not exciting.
No.
But then again, neither's Nola.
Yeah. Well, Nola's going to be what he is next year. I don't know if Sonny Gray.
I was just going to say, the win equity for Nola should be better, and I look and he's 0-5. So
yeah.
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 Was it Jeffrey Springs we're going to talk about here?
Yeah. So, like, I almost cut him in Tout Wars this week.
Oh, good.
I think he has looked horrible. And then he goes out, and I'm actually watching his game on Gamecast yesterday, and it's just ground ball, 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 ground ball. He struck out one guy in 6 innings, but gave up like 2 hits and nothing else, and only walked one guy. And I'm like, well, all right, this is a different guy than the guy that we're going to talk about tomorrow, because his ground ball rate's gone from 50 to 38 to 30 this, in the last couple of years.
Right.
So here's my conclusion on Jeffrey Springs. When he got hurt, the guy that came back isn't the same guy.
Okay.
Like he's the stuff is not the same. He's not very good right now. The control is not there at all. He went from striking out swing strike rate of 15.5% to 10.5% this year. He just does not get swings and misses. Like, I couldn't even believe it was 10.5% when I went and looked it up. He's pretty much fastball, change slider, 3-pitch guy. The fastball tops out at a whopping 90. He was 88, 89 for most of yesterday. I can't believe this guy gets anybody out. I really can't. Not excited, not looking for a turnaround. I will be cutting him at some point next month. I can virtually guarantee it.
The last thing we want to see is a pitcher toughing it out, right? If you're not ready, don't pitch. Oh, like you say, and Brandon quotes you all the time. It's just, if you don't know, it's like, just be good or be hurt. Right.
Those are my favorite guys, man.
Yep.
They're good, and then something goes sprawling. Okay, fine. You put them on the IL, you grab somebody else. I don't want you to suck. Sucking is bad.
Yep. I call it Pedroia syndrome. Pedroia just went and toughed it out there, and it just wasn't very good. It's like, okay, sit down for a while and get healthy.
Exactly. Why don't you take a seat on the bench?
Yeah.
If he weren't pitching against a suddenly just decrepit Rangers squad yesterday, I wouldn't have had him in the lineup. And I was about to cut him, and I looked at his schedule for the week, and I was like, man, I'll give him one more week. But I mean, who's he pitching against next week? Because I may very well cut him on Sunday.
I'm gonna check that out.
I'm looking right now.
Yeah.
No, he's got Seattle.
Okay. Seattle
against lefties, I don't think is very good because Jorge Polanco can only hit left-handed right now. Yeah, I don't know. I might give him one more week again. The week after that, he's got the Dodgers in a 2-start week. So bye-bye.
What's going on with Texas, by the way? Did the Seager thing just unravel?
Apparently, Corey Seager is the most valuable player in the history of the universe. That's all I can figure out. Because, I mean, Adolis Garcia looks like a shell of the guy that he was a couple of years ago.
I'll tell you what, 2 years ago, Corey Seager was a league winner.
Corey Seager is an outstanding hitter who is hurt very often.
Yeah.
But Marcus Semien looks like a shadow of himself.
Yep.
Adolis Garcia looks like the guy that first came up with the Cardinals and was swinging and missing every other swing. They lost Nate Lau, who was very dependable at first base, and grabbed Jake Berger, who we all thought was going to be good, and now he's in AAA.
Yeah.
Evan Carter is finally tearing it up at AAA, but they haven't brought him up yet because they want to play whomever the hell they're playing. Josh Young has been hurt.
Yep.
The only guy that's hitting for them is Jonah Heim.
Yep. What do you think about Berger? That's fascinating to me.
Yeah, I mean, guys that swing and miss that much, they are going to have some slumps that look really ugly.
Yeah.
And you just have to accept that. And it just seems like the Rangers didn't know what they were getting. Like, you're getting a guy that is going to go through 2 or 3 week stretches where he has 3 hits. This is who you got. Okay. He's also going to go through stretches where he hits 8 homers in a month. You don't get the one without the other with this guy. So you're going to let him get right in AAA and hit a bunch of homers down there so he can come up and slump again. Like, I don't
have his hot streak in AAA. That's the game you're playing at this point.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me. But then again, there's a lot of stuff that organizations do that don't make sense to me.
Not like they have a big option either. And that's exactly the game you're playing where he gets hot in AAA.
Yeah, but that's going to happen. And so if I'm the Rangers, I'm like, okay, yeah, go get your timing figured out. The first day you hit a home run, you're coming back up.
All right, the long, strange decline of Kevin Gausman continues.
All right, now when I said I don't think we're done yet, like with Sonny Gray, like a guy in a couple comments, I think we're witnessing the end here. He's not terrible yet, but the walk rate is up considerably since his peak in 2022. He is increasingly like the splitter is the only thing that ever gets missed by batters.
Yeah.
Hard hit rate's been over 40% for 3 years in a row. The velocity is much less than it was 5, 4, 3, 2 years ago. I'm not really excited. I mean, you're down to, he had a nice peak there where he was around 15% swing strike rates. And even a couple of years ago, he was still at 13. And last year and this year, he's down under 11. And 11's about average. So he's now a below average bat misser with declining control and a declining ground ball rate. None of that is good.
Yep.
So I think what you saw last year with an xFIP of 420 and an xERA of 470, but he outperformed those peripherals with a low home run to fly ball rate. So he gave you a 380 and people thought, oh, well, that was just an off year. He'll be back next year. I don't think so. I think we're getting close to the end here.
You would look at, if this were a player A type of situation and you didn't know the name and you were looking at the stat line, you wouldn't touch this guy.
No, not at all. Look at that. Look at the K rate.
Yeah. K rate, walk rate, home run rate is okay, I guess, but the quality of contact suggests there's more to come.
Well, they're all heading the wrong direction, all three of them.
Yep.
The things that you want to see, you are seeing less of all of them each year.
No, they've arrived in the wrong direction. They aren't headed in the wrong direction. They've arrived. The last 3 years have been a significant decline.
Well, the walk rate is heading in the wrong direction. The K rate is at the wrong place. The home run rate is heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm not happy that I own this guy in 2 leagues. I didn't expect the decline to continue to this magnitude just yet either, but here we are.
All right, so while I'm skirming around for starting pitchers in most cases, Brady Singer has been a guy that I've jumped on quite a bit and talked me out of it.
I'm going to talk you out of it because I think this was a pretty – see, when guys sign places, I mean, he signed a 1-year prove-it deal in a park that is really not suited well for him.
Yeah.
I don't see this ending well. Like, he has pitched well to this point. The walk rate's up a little, 35% ground ball rate in Cincinnati before the weather has warmed up. I'm not liking it, man. I mean, I don't think this is going to end well. Brady Singer he hasn't been a real high launch angle guy, but he's been an average to high barrel guy and a high exit velocity guy.
Well, look at the home run rates in Kansas City. You do the conversion to Cincinnati, and you can see where the problems will start.
You could make an argument that Cincinnati is the best home run park in the league.
Yep.
It's not the best run scoring park because Coors Field exists, but it could be the best home run park in the league. And Brady Singer, the way he is pitching right now, is going to give up home runs.
Yep.
So you compound that with the fact that he's had a pretty easy schedule so far. He's only faced one team with a slugging percentage over 400, and that was the Mariners, who frankly aren't a great offense. They do hit some home runs.
But they fit his weaknesses. They don't hit a ton of home runs, so it's a good fit for him.
I really feel like as we move into the summer, Brady Singer is going to have some absolute explosions. He is certainly, for me, a sell high guy.
Well, Sean Manea's got to get Brandon Woodruff's got to get healthy for me so I can get rid of this guy.
Brandon Woodruff should be back next week.
Yeah. And what are we looking for out of him?
Hopefully health.
Yeah.
He's had one bad rehab start, but I think most of them have been decent. I don't think you can expect the guy that left that first year back. Usually the control is a little shaky, but I think I'm hoping he'll at least be okay.
But Brady Singer is a guy that we should just be willing to let go, right? Ride it while you can, but be willing to let go. Don't get
there's some sell high guys on this list, man. I mean, Imanaga, Singer, Rodon. These are guys that I would be shopping.
Chances are there are comparable, if not better, options in your player pool than Brady Singer at this point, even though he's pitching well. And like I said, feel free to ride it. Feel free to pick your starts with him, but just don't get too attached. Yep,
100% agree with that. And I think, you want to be looking at things. I mean, the walk rate is important. We look at that, but you want to look at ground ball rate. You want to look at swing strike rate. You want to look at exit velocity allowed. Like, these are the things that are important. We're 6 starts in. You can easily have some wide disparities in ERA versus underlying statistic ERA. should ERA. So I really feel like that's what you should be looking at right now. This is a time, this week, next week, the week after, when you can really make some smart decisions and bolster your squad for the rest of the season by pawning some of these guys off that are really outperforming their peripherals.
All right, that's Sky Dombroske. I'm Lou Blasi. We're from InsideOfBaseball.com. You can find the podcast there, past podcasts as well, on the baseball blog, which is free to non-subscribers. There's a lot of ways that you can find out ways to win your championship. A lot of great notes, samples of the emails we send out to our customers every week. And by the way, become a subscriber to us. We'll help you win some championships. We do it every year. So check us out at InsideOfBaseball.com. All the tools we use to help you out. Skylar, thanks. We'll talk to you next time.
All right, man.
Take me out to the bar.